Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to NAUI's Dive Team Report. I'm your host, Greg Martin. Sharks have roamed our oceans since before the time of dinosaurs, but their long reign at the top of the ocean food chain could be ending. The onset of industrial fishing over the past 60 years has drastically depleted their populations. And, it's well past the time that we did something about it. And that's where the Pew Charitable Trust Global Shark Conservation comes in. So joining me this week on the podcast is KerriLynn Miller, who is an officer for the Global Shark Conservation of part of the Pew Charitable Trust. And that's a big mouthful, KerriLynn, but bottom line is, what do you guys do?
Well, thank you, Greg. It's great to be here talking to you about sharks and our work here at Pew. We are an internationally focused program that works with governments to help reduce the impacts on sharks. And so we work at international bodies such as regional fishery management organizations, the Convention of International Trade of Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, known as CITES, most recently at the Convention of Migratory Species of Wild Animals, and also locally with governments to enact domestic measures to help manage their sharks as well.
So bottom line is, what's the big problem? We're just killing off sharks too fast?
Yeah, so each year between 63 and 273 million sharks are killed in commercial fisheries, which is an unsustainable number. One of the problems is that sharks' life history characteristics are much more like mammals than they are fish, which is often how they are managed. And so since they are slow growing, they're long-lived, and they have very few offspring, it makes it much more difficult to manage them like these fish species that they're considered, and they should be much more managed like mammals, which are often considered protected species.
Do we have any idea how many sharks there are? And of course, when we talk sharks, we're talking a very broad classification of fish life, not just great white sharks or tiger sharks or the sand sharks. I mean, it's just this entire huge collection of different sharks. Do we have any idea about what the worldwide population is of sharks?
The population is difficult to know as there isn't that much data often captured for sharks. But in regards to species, there are more than 500 species of sharks.
It's interesting, and I asked that question not really expecting an answer, because there are so many people out there that look at it and go, well, there's got to be millions of sharks out there, and they breed, as you mentioned, they're not really prolific breeders, but there's always going to be sharks out there. That's not the case.
That is definitely not the case. What we are seeing is that many shark populations are drastically declining. Some populations have declined as much as 99%. And if we aren't doing something to protect them, they could be disappearing even before some species are discovered.
That's an interesting thought, that yes, we do find new species all the time, but what's the chief problem here? I mean, obviously we're killing them, but is it because of thinning for soup, or is there something else?
So one of the major drivers is the demand for their fins, but they are also traded for their meat and other products, and so it is just the fact that they are being caught in commercial fisheries, as I mentioned, as well as being, bycatch and other threats.
So the Global Shark Conservation, how are you actively, and you mentioned that you work with these other organizations, what is your focus? I mean, how are you out in the water all the time, making sure that people are doing the right things?
So our focus at Pew is much more on the policy side of things, and so we work very closely with other partner organizations as well as governments to enact in-country measures, both domestically and then at the regional and international level.
So what do you want people to do? I mean, normal folks. I grew up in the Midwest, and I was as far away from a shark as you can get when I was a kid. And the first time I had the opportunity of diving with sharks, I mean, you had that initial fear of, oh my gosh, I'm in the water with sharks and I'm going to die and everything. So, it's No, it was an incredible experience. I'd go back and do it over and over and over again. But most people don't get that. What do you want people, normal people, to do?
One of the things that they can do is just recognize that the importance that sharks play in the ecosystem, that they are something that we need to be protecting, and that I know, as you said, many people have a fear of sharks, but they should really be respectful of them and this role in the ecosystem, and that if we lose them, that's really going to affect everything in the ocean, which could then impact people even in the Midwest who are not close to the ocean.
No, absolutely. Now, are you a diver yourself?
I hate to admit that I am not yet a diver, but I do snorkel and have definitely been in the water with sharks.
That's just fine. Snorkelers or divers. That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah.
And so you've been in the water with sharks. You've had that initial rush of, oh my gosh, and they're just awesome creatures, aren't they?
Yes, it's an amazing feeling to be in the water with them. To know that they are playing this important role, and as you said, have been around for so long, and it's just an awe-inspiring feeling to get to witness that. And one of the other important things is that they are not only just important to the ecosystems, but also many countries get value through ecotourism. And so that is another important role that they are playing in local communities.
Sure. Now, you guys have a website. You want to talk about that, where people can go to find out what kind of information?
Sure. Anyone can come and visit our website. It's pewsharks.org, and they can find out more scientific information about sharks, as well as policy information and just anything that they might want to know about what we're doing to protect them.
Sounds great. KerriLynn, I can't thank you enough for spending a few minutes to talk about this. Be sure and go check out that website. Again, pewsharks.org. Is that what you said?
Yes.
All right. Go check it out. And again, thanks for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me, Greg. I appreciate it.
We got to keep the sharks in the water with all of us. They're really, really important. You need to do your part. Be sure and check out that website. If you enjoyed the podcast, again, please make sure you subscribe. If you have any comments, love to hear from you. podcast@naui.org. And of course, if you'd like to get in the water and swim with the fishies, be sure and check out your local NAUI Dive Shop or NAUI, NAUI.org. That's this episode of NAUI's Dive Team Report. I'm Greg Martin. Thank you for listening. I'll see you underwater.